How would a Floyd fight play out today with both you in your primes? If Floyd was in his prime, you in your prime. Talk to us about what kind of dream matchup that would be.
100% focus in my prime. I think I'll beat Floyd.
Ooh,
he ain't running. Earl ain't running.
Talk to us about that, though. You can't just tell us what would be the game plan, the mental strategy of that.
Floyd he's very mentally tough. I would cut him off. I would use my jab. I still should use the jab a lot more. I throw combinations. I work the body and then work the head, because a lot of people, they go to the head and then work the body, or they go for the head and then you can't hit them in the head and then just try to break them down physically, because I know it's not breaking down mentally. He's just one of those top fighters, just like Sean Porter. You're not going to break him down mentally. You can break him down physically, but mentally he's always going to be there. So I would just try to, break him down physically.
We unpack. We unpack. We unpack. Coming to you live, Boxing Ego Unpack. Yeah. We unpack. We unpack. We unpack. Coming to you live. Oh man, Errol Spence says prime for prime. He thinks he would beat Floyd Money Mayweather. Easy work. We gonna talk about this. What up, Fight World? It's your boy Ego, and I'm back with some more boxing. Make sure you smash the like button. Also subscribe to my channel for the latest and greatest in boxing. If you want to become part of the gang, notification gang, please hit the bell icon. Shout out to the super chats, channel donations, the Venmo donations, the Cash App, and the Patreon family. We working. Before I get started, head over to Patreon right now. It's brand new, revamped, and I did a major overhaul. Head over there if you'd like to look at the different tier systems. A great way to support the channel and get some different content that I'm shifting from regular YouTube to Patreon, and also for YouTube channel members, some exclusive stuff. So YouTube channel members, just hit the join button. Great way to support the channel. Another way to support the channel, help us continue to grow, is to use the ESPN Plus link below. It's in the description box of all my videos. Click that link to get the ESPN Plus bundle. That includes ESPN Plus, Hulu, and Disney Plus. Get all three apps, $12.99 a month. And they got a ton of content. They got the Avengers, a ton of Marvel movies, Smart Guy on Disney Plus. It's crazy what Disney owns. ESPN, more of your sports side. They don't have any live events, but UFC is supposed to be coming back. I'll give you guys more details once I get more information on how we're pushing that. But great way to support the channel, and also during this quarantine, get some content going for yourself. Now, let's talk about it. Errol Spence, you guys heard the clip at the beginning of the video. Errol Spence says he believes, he was asked, a question by Matt Barnes and Steven Jackson. He was asked, prime for prime, who do you believe in, yourself or Floyd Mayweather? Who would win? And Errol Spence said he believes that he can beat Floyd. He said if he is 100% focused and dedicated, he has what it takes to beat Floyd Mayweather, right? And I thought this was an interesting topic, so I wanted to share it with you guys. I want your comments. Drop those below in the comment section, because I really want to hear from the fans as to who they believe would win, Errol Spence Jr. or Floyd Money Mayweather, prime versus prime. So I don't know what you guys consider Floyd's prime. Some would say Pretty Boy Floyd, some would say Money Mayweather. Either way, it's a tough fight. I think it's a tough fight for both. Prime for prime, so that means, not a big age difference, because Errol, I think he's barely 30 if he's 30. He's late 20s, early 30s. Floyd's 42, so, right now I doubt they would fight. They're also cool, but he was asked a question. Now, I want to say this, because there's a lot of people, and this is no diss to Matt Barnes or anything, but you guys got to keep this in mind. Errol Spence is on a podcast and he's being asked a question and he's giving his honest thought. So this is what they kind of do to fighters, and it kind of creates a little bit of animosity or tension, because you're asked a direct question and you can weasel your way out of it, or you can give your honest answer. And it's kind of like almost a catch-22. I know Errol and Floyd are supposed to be cool, but he's asked a question And it's like, what do you do? Do you say, oh, somebody else would beat me? Or do you have to say I have the utmost belief in my skill set that I would beat him? So Errol's kind of put in a strange predicament with the question. And again, this is what happens a lot of times with more casual surface area boxing fans. They don't necessarily know some of the deeper, more relevant things to talk about right now because they're surface area fans. So they do more of the fantasy fight route. But I think it's still an interesting fight to discuss and talk about. No way, shape, or form do I see this fight happening at all. I think him and Floyd, to my knowledge, they're cool, or they have a good relationship. Different generations, Errol with this accident. I don't see it happening. That's my honest opinion. As far as Errol Spence, like I said, what is he supposed to say? He's supposed to say another man will beat him. That's not really likely either. As far as me, I don't know. I'm picking Floyd over everybody in this new school, and I have certain reasons why. It's not a knock on Errol Spence or anybody. I would pick him to beat Sean Porter, Errol Spence, Terrence Crawford, and any Danny Garcia, all these guys. That's just my personal opinion. I think Floyd, like you can match up all these guys. Like, for example, Floyd would not fall into Sean Porter's game, in my opinion. Sean Porter's very rugged, a lot of heart, a lot of athleticism, but we've seen Maidana, who is arguably a bigger puncher than Sean Porter, and he tried all the tactics he could, illegal shots, roughhousing, bit Floyd, rabbit punching, anything, mauling him, bull rushing him on the ropes, and he had a real IDGAF attitude in the ring, and he still in 2 fights couldn't beat Floyd. So what's Sean Porter's X factor? Or Terrence Crawford, that's a tough fight. I think Terrence Crawford Floyd would be a tough fight, but if we're talking prime versus prime, the reason why I would favor Floyd is because, in my opinion, this is not a knock on any of these guys, because this is the new generation, and it's a generation I'm covering. Because I wasn't, when Floyd, earlier in his career, I wasn't covering boxing. YouTube wasn't even a thing when he first started. But the reason I would pick him over Terrence Crawford is because I have seen there have been times where Terrence Crawford will stubbornly stay to a game plan, or make a kind of decision that doesn't benefit him, or fight fire with fire. Like, Terrence Crawford is such a dog that sometimes he doesn't know when to turn that dog off. Floyd is different than all these dudes in this new school because, one, his training and preparation. I give it to Terrence Crawford. Crawford, you don't really see him ballooning up, so he controls his weight. But a lot of these other dudes, I've seen portions of time where most of them, Danny Garcia, Errol Spence, most of them, I've seen them pick up some pounds, Broner, in their off season before fights and whatnot. So Floyd's discipline is insane. Floyd, when it comes to work ethic, Floyd just always rises to the occasion. So I'm really rocking with every reasonable fight until otherwise proven. I'm rocking with Floyd just because it's a consistency thing. But even just like I said, Terrence Crawford, sometimes, for example, the Mean Machine fight. Mean Machine, I think Terrence Crawford, he made the fight harder than it needed to be. He came out southpaw for whatever reason, and he was getting hit, and he really got dropped in that fight. And he decided to stay. It was a mental tug of war, and he decided to stubbornly stay as a southpaw, knowing he's ambidextrous and he has the ability to switch, and he could have discovered what he discovered earlier had he made the switch earlier. But I think it was it became like a pissing contest and a psychological warfare where Terrence Crawford just kept staying, southpaw, even though it wasn't really working against Mean Machine Idris Kavalaskis, and he did it and did it and did it, and then eventually, when after several rounds, he switched and went back to an orthodox, and that's where he really started opening Mean Machine up. Fatigue started to set in for Mean Machine, and he started getting teed off on, right? But those little minute differences, Floyd, in my opinion, would never do that. Floyd is not, he's going to fight the best way he knows how, and he's going to fight to get the crowd, you know, he's going to fight to get the victory at all costs. You know, he doesn't care if the crowd's booing. He doesn't care if he has to go toe to toe. He's willing to demonstrate all the facets of his game. You know, he shows dog when need be, but then if the fight's easy, you know, he's not going to fight necessarily harder than he needs to, like the Berto fight. He's taking his shots and he was playing around in there. Maidana, he had a different level of aggression and different level of power and style. So Floyd was all business in that fight. You know, he was surgical. So, you know, Errol Spence, you could say the same thing. I think Errol Spence, so much dog in him that Errol Spence stayed as a, I don't know, he kind of fought Sean Porter's fight. You see what I'm saying? Sean Porter's fight, because of what he said in the pre-fight build-up and things of that sort. So he fought the tougher fight. He showed just the previous fight before that he can box, and he can box well, and he can double and triple up the jab, which he showed in the Mikey Garcia fight. But versus Sean Porter, he fought a hellacious pace. If you do that with Floyd Mayweather, that's not going to be a good look, because Floyd is a master at his craft, and he's going to zap. He's going to do little subtle things that Sean Porter doesn't necessarily even do, like jab and stab to the solar plex. That is going to siphon energy out of a guy like Errol Spence or anybody, because it's just little subtle things. It's zap, 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 you know, and he's going to slowly siphon that energy. So mid-round, that's when he's going to put it on, you know. So fighting the wrong style of fight, you can't really do that with Floyd Mayweather. Canelo did it, and Canelo negated all of his size advantage, try to be in there cute. Instead of using his size advantage and his power, he was in there, you know, trying to outbox Floyd. And it shows that's not really the way to get it done. Errol, to his credit, he did say he would beat Floyd by physicality. He said you can't break Floyd. You can't break guys like Sean Porter mentally. So he wouldn't even go down that avenue. He instead would try to break him down physically. But even that, it's easier said than done. Like I said, it's easier said than done. Floyd Mayweather got an underrated chin, and his defense is on point. Now, I'm probably going to dig in the crates. I got footage of fighters that were there talking about Mayweather versus Errol Spence. And, you know, I'm going to play that clip for you guys at some point. So stay tuned to the channel. Keep it locked. If you're new, consider subscribing. From the account that I heard from another professional fighter that was there, Floyd was definitely troubled by Errol Spence in that sparring session, right? I think Floyd might have even had a black eye from that fight, from the sparring that he did with Errol Spence. So, you know, it's not out of the realm of possibilities that Errol Spence could win. However, this is the one thing that I wouldn't go. You can't go off of sparring. Sparring is sparring. Guys like Oscar De La Hoya, I heard that he got worked by Edwin Valero in sparring. And I think Valero was smaller than De La Hoya, you know, especially at the time. But here's the kicker. That doesn't necessarily mean Oscar De La Hoya with a full fight camp would lose to Edwin Valero. You know, that'd be a hellacious fight because he's a huge puncher. But, you know, rest in peace. It is what it is. But you can't really gauge so much on sparring. They said Lucien Bute was whooping Jean Pascal, but then when they fought, then the fight was even. Or Jean Pascal versus Badou Jack, I heard Badou Jack got the best of the sparring. But when they fought, by the time they fought, at the time in which they fought, they were both hurting each other. I was at that fight in Atlanta, you know, things like that. So there's only so much you could take for sparring. So Errol Spence can't necessarily just get too confident on whatever happened. Like I said, I wasn't there, but I've talked to a couple of people that were there, and some is off record, some is on the record, and they said Errol was doing his thing, and he pushed Floyd. But there's also the element of surprise when we're talking about sparring. Errol Spence at the time, this was well before Sean Porter fights. This is before the Man Down. This is before the Lamont Peterson fight, Kell Brook fight. This is well before that. So Errol Spence was this kid from DeSoto, Texas, that Floyd probably didn't really know too much about. So that's sparring, if you don't really know something about somebody and you think it's going to be some easy work, and then Errol Spence is really a dog and really got skills and fundamentals, you could get got. But one thing I've seen from Floyd Mayweather is he shines under the brightest lights possible. Who cares what happens in sparring? When them lights is on, Floyd Mayweather does his thing. You see what I'm saying? So if they were to fight prime versus prime, even though this is all a fantasy fight, if they were to fight, then best believe Floyd Mayweather, he always says, oh, yeah, I don't watch tape, but I don't think that's true. He watches tape because he's too good and he knows too much about his opponents to not watch tape. So I think Floyd is capping. But whatever, if he were to fight Errol Spence, he would know the dangers of fighting Errol Spence. He would know about Errol Spence, who he is as a fighter. And I don't think he would, he wouldn't take no shorts. He wouldn't take no shortcuts. He would train. And here's another thing. Floyd Mayweather, I think one of the reasons why I really would favor Floyd to beat Errol Spence or really any of these new guys is because Floyd is from a generation that they don't teach anymore, like keeping your weight in check. The new class, there's a lot of, and I'm not just talking about welterweights right now. I'm talking about a lot of dudes. Like you see them in their off season, they like huge, stuff like that. Floyd is from a different school that they don't necessarily teach. A lot of what you know in boxing is who is your Ip Man, who's your Sifu. You know what I'm saying? You gotta. It's your teachings. It's what you learn. It's how long you've been doing it and how long you've been delving in it. Floyd comes from a boxing family. He was cultivated in boxing, and frankly, some of the stuff they don't teach. And even if they do teach it, if you can find a teacher who teaches like the Philly shell and stuff like that, the difference is he was taught this stuff at a young age. So it's different. Like, let's say I link up with Floyd Mayweather Sr. and he starts teaching me the Philly shell. That's going to be different than him training Lil Floyd, and he been training Lil Floyd this same routine and the same mitt work and the same Philly shell style since he was 6, 7, 8 years old, all the way to he's 42 now, plus the late great Roger Mayweather, rest in peace, Black Mamba. You see what I'm saying? Like that's a huge difference. That's a huge difference if somebody's been practicing the same drills and the same technique, since they were 6 to age 42, 43, or whatever age Floyd is. So, I just think there's a level of teaching that some of the throwback fighters have, and just old school principles that a lot of these new fighters, they don't have. Like, there's great fighters. Don't get me wrong. I'm not trying to make it like old versus new or, sound like an old head, because Floyd Mayweather is older than me and stuff like that. But my thing is, it's just certain things that a lot of young fighters, no matter how good they are, there's a lot of young fighters that they don't have certain things, like a jab. Is like one of the first things you should learn, and you should use it. There's a lot of fighters that have a jab and then won't use it throughout the fight, or they'll use it and stop. Floyd Mayweather is from a different generation, him and Pacquiao. So they're able to, it's hard to explain, but they're able to do stuff that these young bulls ain't even ready for, because they haven't even been taught how to deal with this. Like, how do you deal with the Pacquiao? Name somebody who fights like Pacquiao. You won't really find anyone who can match Pacquiao. He's an anomaly. You can't. That's why you seen Keith Thurman and Pacquiao. People thought Keith Thurman had a chance. He had a chance, but you seen what happened. He lost. So it's just something that some of these throwback fighters possess, if they're still able. Because the question about Errol Spence and Floyd was prime versus prime. So if I'm going prime versus prime, I gotta rock with Floyd. If we're talking about Errol Spence now and then a 43-year-old, who knows? But again, I don't see that happening. I don't see 43-year-old Floyd fighting against Errol Spence necessarily, especially when they're supposed to be cool and all that. So Let me know what you guys think. Very interesting subject matter. Let me know if there's anyone picking Errol Spence, but shout out to him. Shout out to Spence. I heard he did great versus Floyd Mayweather, and that might be part of why he feels he would win. But this is what you're supposed to think as a fighter. You're not supposed to be like, oh, this guy would have beat me. This guy would have beat me. If you ask Terrence Crawford who wins, him or Sugar Ray Leonard, despite what the public thinks, Crawford himself probably feels he could beat Sugar Ray Leonard, you know, but it's easier said than done. You never know till you try. So ultimately, we probably won't find these out, especially if we're talking prime versus prime, because there's no way to rewind time to find Sugar Ray Leonard's prime and match him with Crawford or match a prime Floyd with a prime Errol, etc. But I just think a lot of fighters like Floyd, there's just old school stuff that they don't even teach anymore, and it's far and few in between. So I think Errol will have his hands full under the bright lights, you know. Let me know what you guys think. Drop your thoughts in the comment section. If you love what I'm doing, smash the like button. As always, hate, comment, and subscribe. Till next video is Ego signing off.
So if you enjoyed this video and want more content like this on the channel, you can show your appreciation by going to the PayPal donate button or the YouTube support button, and you can donate any amount that you feel is equivalent to the value of this video. Much more to come. Thank you guys for your support. Boxing Ego, the future of boxing.